Today's version of the Epic IEP gone wrong. It's going to be long, but hang in. You're going to want to hear this. Have you ever been in an IEP meeting and it went off the rails? The Epic IEP went wrong. And that's going to happen. What percentage of your meetings does it happen? A lot. And it doesn't mean that it's bad or it's not collaborative. Are you guys so excited when they open the meetings and they say, we're going to read the meeting norms to everybody and you're all going to agree, okay? Have you ever been in another meeting anywhere else, like buying a car, with your banker, with your realtor, and anybody starts out a meeting with the meeting norms? No, nowhere, just in special education meetings. You know why people have to say that? Because sometimes our behavior makes people go off the rails in an IEP meeting. So let's talk about it. It's important to know what meeting you're going to and what the meeting you've been invited to. Very important, whether you're the school, whether you're the parent or the advocate, to look at the type of meeting that it was. And so I always say to people that I'm training, if you want to have an IEP meeting and then open it to talk about endless things, you ask for a review IEP meeting if it's outside of an annual IEP meeting. But the meetings come with great legal specificity. So we're in an MDR, a Manifestation Determination Resolution meeting. I go to a ton of them. So the students had an action. It requires a disciplinary response. And we have two questions before us, right? One, is the action related to or directly caused by the student's disability? And number two, or was it the failure of the school to implement the IEP? Those are the two questions we're talking about. Guess what else we're talking about? Nothing. We're not talking about anything else, right? So we're in this meeting. It's a Manifestation Determination Resolution meeting. So we're going to talk about those two questions. And so the student has had a history of behaviors that are actually direct characteristics of his autism. If you want to know the correct characteristics of autism, you would look up in your DSM-5 criteria. You guys have the DSM-5 criteria, don't you? So this is this book. You can get it on our bookshelf. But you need to know this. This will tell you the characteristics of, disorders that affect people neurologically. And of course, you always want to align everything you're doing with an IEP meeting with the federal code. I know you're doing that. So again, we're wanting to have an EPIC IEP meeting, and almost always we can. But in special education, we have not trained staff members on special education law. We have not trained them on the hundreds and hundreds of statutes under IDEA. We haven't. So we don't need to argue about that. If you want to learn about that, join us in Special Education Academy every Monday night, where we train people to be EPIC IEP advocates, whether you're a school-based member, a parent, or an educator. Okay, so we're at the table. These are behaviors that he's had. He's had the staff not treat him nicely. He's been actually abused by a staff member, which is already confirmed by the district. And so we had this meeting. So even though something has gone wrong in the past, we still have to procedurally and substantively apply the law to all situations. And so procedurally, what does that mean? That's the processes of the law. And then the substance, those are the really meaningful pieces that impact the student with a disability. So we have the meeting, we list what happened, just goofiness. Some of this stuff, like half of this stuff is preventable. Like, here's the thing, you guys, let's not poke the bear. Let's not irritate a child knowingly with sensory complexities and deficits. In this classroom, they were using a small self-contained behavioral classroom. They were using a commercial vacuum cleaner. Now, I'm not real smart. So why do we have a commercial vacuum cleaner going on inside of a self-contained behavioral classroom? So the child perseverates. He wants to keep it. The principal told me it's one of his, it was that the paraprofessional offered it to him. I said, so that's not only was it a manifestation and determination of his disability, but it's also, you didn't implement the IEP. And she goes, yes, we did. And I said, no, you didn't. I didn't do all that because that wouldn't look very professional. But I said, no, you didn't. And she said, what do you mean? I said, on his BIP choices, other options, we've never listed a commercial vacuum cleaner. You know why? Because that wouldn't be good to offset the behavior. So we get through it. She agrees that this is, she doesn't agree that they didn't implement the IEP, which is fine. But she agrees, the principal, that this behavior was a direct correlation to his disability. And so then we signed to do an FBA and we're all good. And then she goes, however, that's when the EPIC IEP gone wrong happens. However, there's no however. She goes, but we would like to change his placement. I mean, just out of the blue. So you guys have to be ready for when the EPIC IEP goes wrong and goes wild, that you know how to legally pivot and respond to that. And so she said that we need to move him to out of district placement. I said, we're not going to do that. I said, because first of all, that's not the meeting that we're in. And if we're not in the right meeting, we're not doing those things. Make sure that you understand what the legal requirements are. I said, if you'd like to have a placement meeting, then we can do that. But this isn't happening here. So MDR is solely for a manifestation determination resolution meeting. It's not to change other things. It's not to adjust goals. It's not to have different pieces going on. So understand the types of meetings that you're going to and the obligations, responsibilities, and duties that go along with that meeting. So she said they were going to change its placement. I picked up the phone and called the executive director, and guess what? We got another invitation. The meeting is being canceled for the thing that we weren't allowed to do legally. Make sure that you know what happens when the Epic IEP goes wild.